All right. Hey, everybody. If you are just tuning in today, welcome to the Mental Health Festival 2024. And thank you so much for being here with me today as well. Right. So my name is Kai. I will be spending the next 15 minutes with all of you today. And I'm here to guide you through a quick but meaningful session on building your own personal self-care plan. Right. So this is what exactly that we will be going through today as well. But before we dive in a little bit deeper, I want to ask everybody here to take a deep breath with me. All right, now, doesn't that already feel a little bit better, right? So in today's world, we live in a very fast-paced environment where we are constantly juggling responsibility, and it's so easy to put ourselves last. But today, in this just 15 minutes, I want to shift that focus, and we are here to talk about something incredibly important, and that's you. Because the reality is, when we take the time to care for ourselves, we can show up better for our families, our colleagues, and most importantly, for ourselves too. All right. So along in these sessions, there will also be a handout that will be shared with you as well. So do check it out in the handout column when you open the chat box over there on the right-hand side of your panel. Right. In these sessions specifically, we will be talking about how to prioritize self-care more intentionally and regularly with the help of the self-care plan. All right. So there are also a couple of things that we can always take note of if, let's say, we have never started a self-care plan at all, right? So you might feel a little bit lost. You may not know where to start, where to begin. But don't worry. If, let's say, you are wondering about some prompts, these sessions is exactly the right thing for you to be in, right? The very first step to start a self-care plan is to always acknowledge the obstacles. Right? For example, something that might be preventing you from engaging in activities that rejuvenate you. Let's think about a time where you think self-care will work the best for you. So personally, I think self-care works the best for me at 7 p.m. every day after work, right? If let's say it's the same for you, think about right now, every day at 7 p.m., what do you usually do? Right? Would you be just spending your time watching TV, scrolling on your phone, just laying in bed, or doing other things as well? Right? So these might be some obstacles. So by obstacles here, we are referring to the activities that you might be doing when you think that that time might be better used for your own self-care activity as well. Right? But when it comes to obstacles, there are always a lot more reasons as well when it comes to us not prioritizing ourselves enough. So say, for example, it's very easy to say we don't have the time, right? Because of work, family, and then everything else, right? So how do we actually fit in self-care? So if let's say that's your specific obstacle, what I would really encourage you to do is look at your calendar, your schedules on the daily basis, right? And to find pockets of time where, hey, potentially there'll be a 15-minute time slot or even 30 minutes, right? You can just slot into some activities that you personally would enjoy as part of your self-care plan as well. All right. So this is always the very first step. And I would always say that, the very first step is always the most important one. And the main reason is because it will give you a lot more clarity into your habits, your routine, and very importantly, your preferences as well. All right. So let's take some time, refer to the handout that was shared with you in the handout column as well. Make some mental notes, right? So what might be some obstacles, right, that might be preventing you from engaging in activities that rejuvenate you on a daily basis, or could just be a couple of days a week. All right. So there are also some reflective questions that I will also be asking along the way. So for example, right, think about the last time you truly felt relaxed and energized. Right? What got in the way of doing that more often, right? So for example, why aren't you doing that activity more? So that could be the obstacle that you might want to jot down in this particular page, right? So from here, there are also a lot more things that we should and we can always consider as well. And the second part over here, it's about the habits that might be hindering your self-care, right? In this particular part is that, for example, right, some habit that I personally struggled with back in the day was that, I find myself having that lack of boundaries. For example, I have the habits of checking emails late at night, before I sleep, when I honestly shouldn't have been, right? So these might be some smaller habits that you might not even be aware, right? Because they are also natural and you are not even, in the know that, they might be hindering your progress when it comes to having your own self-care plan. Or, for example, right, you might be neglecting your rest as well, right? You may have fallen into the habit of prioritizing productivity over rest, right? You think that, if you spend more time doing work, you might be more productive, but at the same time, you neglect your rest, right? Or, for example, how many of you in this session skip your break or work through lunch? All right, so that's also something for us to consider as well. And some smaller habits that we might not even be aware, but it can be quite important when it comes to shaping our own personal self-care plan. All right, so after identifying our habits over here, let's give it some self-care ideas that we want to have. All right, so self-care ideas over here look very different people to people, from you, from me. Essentially, when it comes to self-care ideas, it's about the activities that you personally would enjoy the most. All right, so say for example, right, most people think of self-care, they always think of a very extensive, elaborate events, right? I have to buy plane tickets, fly out of the country, staying overseas for a week, and that's considered self-care. But to be honest, to be fair, that's always not the case. It can be as simple as going out for a walk, right? Taking a very short nap when you need to, all right? Or for example, getting your favorite cup of coffee in the day, all right? Or meeting up with your friends after work over a dinner or things like that. It can be just very, very simple. If not, it can also just be doing a very quick breathing exercises before you sleep or even right after you wake up, right? So these are also some really, really small ideas that can also be considered as self-care as well. And I would really encourage everybody here to start your own self-care activities with something really small, right? The main reason that's important is also because, especially if you are doing this for the very first time ever, it might look a bit daunting, scary, you might be a bit lost. So it's always a lot easier for us to ease into self-care by doing something a lot more easier, right? That we can all relate to. And more importantly, very importantly, the activities that you would enjoy doing the most. All right, so these are some self-care activities over here as well. And moving on from this one, there are also a couple of things that I would like to share when it comes to making our self-care plan more committed, more robust, and more comprehensive for our personal lifestyle as well. So once again, right, for this particular part, it will look really, really different people to people as well. So essentially what works for me might not work for you, and the same goes for other people as well, right? After you have identified the self-care activities, the ideas that you really, really want to do, think about a commitment. For example, what exactly would you do? And for example, and how long would you plan to spend to do that certain activity as well? And when in a particular day or a time? Right. So for me, for example, I like doing breathing exercises a lot, and I do that every time right after I wake up at night, for example, right? So after I wake up at night, I'll take a very quick 5 to 10 minutes to do a very quick breathing exercises before I officially start my day, right? So that's what I do, right? That self-care commitment. And I always started with something that's very easy. Because honestly, if I started with something really, really difficult and I feel quite defeated because I'm not able to do it, and I will just be giving up eventually, right? So that's also something for us to consider. Right, so aside from the commitment, after you have conducted or practiced your self-care for, a span of 7 days a week, right? Reflect what happened in the week, right? Did you manage to do what you wanted to do, right? If you did not, what happened and why is the reason? And would there be any rooms for you to move that reasons, for you to make more space, right? Make more time to conduct your self-care as well. Right, so these are a couple of things that we can always consider, and I really, really hope that you can find that handout really helpful as well. But there are also a lot more, like some concluding remarks that I really want to share with everybody here today as well. So first thing first, when it comes to self-care, make it a priority, right? So treat self-care like a non-negotiable appointment. And sometimes I have to admit, when you start practicing self-care, it might seem a little bit selfish at first, but I can promise you it is not at all, right? The main reason that we do self-care is to be able to rejuvenate yourself. And that's when we can show up best for our friends, our families, and our colleagues, right? So self-care essentially is not selfish, right? It should be as important as your work meetings or your family obligations as well. And aside from that, accountability is also something that is really, really important when it comes to self-care, right? So share your self-care goals with your friends, with your family member. Sometimes knowing that someone is checking in on us can keep us on track as well. Right, but of course, if let's say you ever feel lost, always come back to this handout. Look at all these prompts over here and help you to come up with a different and more personal self-care plan in the future. Right? And just like that, you've got your own self-care plan as well, very personal. So see, it doesn't really take long to put yourself first. And I hope this gives you a little bit of space to reflect on what you need to do to feel your best, not just today, but moving forward as well. So again, accountability, sustainability, consistency, they are quite important when it comes to having our own self-care activities. Right, so once again, thank you so much for joining me in this quick break. Do share your feedback by scanning this QR code on screen as well. Now, if you are done with the feedback form and if you are ready to head over to the next session, which promises to be an engaging one-on coaching versus therapy, you can click on the prompt on the screen, or you can go to your email reminder you received for this event as well to click on the unique join link. Right, so I'll be there joining as well to listen in, and I hope to see you there in that session as well. Thank you once again. I hope we can all practice self-care today moving forward, and see you again. Bye-bye.